Hey guys, welcome back to Deska Discusses. Time for some, I need theme music, come on. So, here we are. We're back at home and we're, today I'm going to be looking at, I'm more of a DC fan, and I've said this many times. How do I put this? It's not that I'm not a Marvel fan, I'm just more of a DC person per se. Huge fan of Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, obviously. But today we're going to be talking about, as you can see, the new film, The Suicide Squad. Well, there's my thumbnail, sorry, as you can see. In terms of spoilers, I'll keep them to a minimum and I'll keep them at the end. So if you have any questions or whatever, let me know. But let's get into it, shall we? And where we start? Let's start at the beginning. Boom. Okay, so the original Suicide Squad film. Now, how do I put this? I was a fan back in the day, in 2016, I think it came out, 2018, I don't know, but yeah, I did buy the Blu-ray back in the day, and I thought it was good. You know, let's just quickly have a look at that film for a second. You know what? No, let's not do that. Put it this way. It was okay. There was some flaws with it. The Joker did a pretty good, Jared Leto did a pretty okay role as the Joker, but people were left a bit empty, I think, with that film, because I just think that the antagonist of it was just a bit of a mess. So I was a fan of the Suicide Squad, but I think more so in terms of DC, I did like what they did with Justice League, and I did like what they did with a few other new films that came out. A lot of people didn't like Batman vs Superman. I thought it was okay. Wonder Woman, the original one, the first one was good. The 1984 one was not good, in my opinion. Didn't really like it. So yeah. Anonymous, the first one was terrible, in my opinion. Yeah, definitely. The first Wonder Woman was good. Oh wait, hang on. Anonymous. The first one was terrible, in my opinion. Well, okay, cool. I liked the first Wonder Woman. The second one wasn't a huge fan of. So let's get into this, shall we? Let's get into the Suicide Squad. Now, looking at the synopsis, supervillains Harley Quinn, Bloodsport, Peacemaker, and a collection of nutty cons at Belle Reve prison join the super secret, super shady Task Force X as they dropped off on a remote enemy-infused island of the Corto Maltese. Now, what I do like about this is that it has, by just reading that, that's the story. That's literally it. There's nothing about a power box or a power cube or some sort of magical thing from a universe. It's literally they get dropped off onto an island and they're given a mission. So it's kind of like an old school 80s kind of like action film. It's like, this is your mission, do it. Think Escape from New York, think Commando in a way, think all those 80, Rambo 2, even Rambo 3, kind of that mentality in the first kind of, by reading the synopsis. Now, the opening scene, without spoiling anything, which I'm not, but it has one of the best... No, Wonder Woman was good. I'm saying the first Suicide Squad was bad. Yes, sorry. The first Suicide Squad, like I said, was okay. It really had a lot of flaws. But this one, let me tell you something. This opening sequence was something else. It was quite interesting how they build up this opening sequence, and then it's a real big action sequence that happens, and then your perception of what's going to happen, you can throw that all away, because it literally throws it upside down, and it's like, what just happened? Now, I didn't mind how they did this. I was like, I saw the characters and I'm like, you know what, this is going to be good. They introduce you to these characters, and then major stuff kind of happens, and it was an opening sequence to remember. And the only times I felt kind of like this was, you could probably say, like in a Breaking Bad or a Game of Thrones or a Sopranos episode, where your perception of what you think's going to happen is kind of like thrown away, and you're like, okay, did that really just happen? So I give it that big tick for the opening sequence, which leads into the first, the opening of the film, which is, So this is Suicide Squad, a remake or a sequel to the original one. Well, the thing is, Anonymous, it's... I don't even know, but I think it's between a remake and a sequel, to be honest, because some of the characters are actually in the original film, but it's interesting how they do that. So let's just go through that for a second. I don't think it's a sequel. It can't be a sequel, but it's very strange how they do it. So Margot Robbie, Harley Quinn, just off the bat, she's actually really fantastic in this. Idris Elba as Bloodsport. Now, the rumor was that he was going to be playing Deadshot, the one that Will Smith played in the original, but he ended up playing Bloodsport, and I could see why, because maybe Will Smith will come back. John Cena, and his name is John Cena. He was actually very good in this. I've got friends that aren't big fans of John Cena. You know who you are, but yeah, I'm a big fan of. I thought it was great. Joel Kinnaman, Colonel Rick Flag did a good job. Viola Davis. Now, this is a character that was in the original one, as was Margot Robbie, as was a few others, like, where is he? The boomerang guy. Yeah. So there is a couple that were in the original, right? And there is a few newer characters. So getting onto these newer characters are very interesting because... Oh, there you go. Captain Boomerang. Yeah. So you're given that opening, that premise about what's going to happen, and then it kind of like flips all that, and one by one you introduce all these characters, and they're given a mission by Viola Davis, obviously. Now, what I really liked is the pacing of it. A lot of people, I haven't really read many reviews on it, but some people thought this was a bit slow. I don't think at all. If anything, put it this way, as it keeps going, right, they're given this mission, they land on this island. There is some genuinely funny parts in this film where, our group, Peacemaker, Bloodsport, all these guys end up doing what they got to do. They get onto this island and it's quite violent, and then all of a sudden there's just this big kind of payoff, and it is quite funny in parts. Now, again, not going to spoil it in terms of what happens, but it is a lot more light in terms of humor, a lot more humor than the original Suicide Squad film, where I think that was a bit too serious, apart from like the Harley Quinn and some of the Joker parts, which were more disturbing than anything. But this is funny. I think it grips you from the start, and as it goes on, you're given the antagonists of the narrative, which is, the bad guys of this island, and you think, okay, cool, that's the bad guy, that's the guy who's in charge, and that's the main bad guy, that's his second in line, whatever. Harley Quinn gets into it, and put it this way, guys, without, can't really say too much, but like what I just said about Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, and the way a lot of TV shows, good TV shows, do this, where your perception about what's going to happen. The first one felt very dark. Yeah, definitely. First one was extremely, not extremely dark, but very dark. This has definitely taken that completely and, done a complete 180, 360, 180, whatever. But the director, James Gunn, the guy that did Guardians of the Galaxy, now, like I said, Lacazette, not a huge Marvel fan, not a huge Marvel fan, but I did enjoy Guardians of the Galaxy, Black Panther, the original Thor, the original Iron Man, but Avengers and all that. Avengers was okay, but I'm not going to get into this. Endgame, Infinity War, I know I haven't seen them, whatever, but we'll leave that. I'm more of a DC fan, so I was really looking forward to this. As the movie goes on, things happen that you wouldn't expect. Expect the unexpected, okay? And in terms of characters, there is really good chemistry between all of them. I really think Idris Elba plays a really good Bloodsport role. John Cena has got that... this is it. Put it this way. If anyone's seen The Boys, right, the Amazon show, I've only seen probably 1.5 seasons. That's the kind of vibe I was getting from this movie. Definitely has that Boys feel where... I call Marvel, I'm not saying Marvel's not dark, but I just think that I just think that the Marvel films, with this, they're so polished and everyone's, clean cut with like good guy, bad guy. I get all that, but Suicide Squad, more violent, swearing, funnier, dark humor. Yes, it's there, a lot of dark humor, but I just think it's more of a. It's definitely not for kids, that's for sure. But that's why I enjoyed it. Now, again, difficult to talk about the characters, but what happens. But as I was saying, in terms of the characters, really good chemistry between all of them. As the movie goes on, you've got that typical thing. You've got action sequence, a bit of a laugh, talking, another action sequence, and then middle of the film, there is kind of like a scene where, all the characters have to, obviously, they're in a bar and they're talking about a few little things every now and then, but it's not as draining as the Suicide Squad, the original one. That bar scene where they're sitting there talking and that flame guy tells his story and it's depressing. This is actually pretty funny, and again, that leads to an action sequence. Where it's at, though, in terms of like what the actual storyline is and what it's all about, is very interesting in terms of not talking about, testing animals, people, like, government, more not so much government testing, but ethical things that governments do. That's where this story kind of lies, where the squad have to infiltrate this island and find out what these people are doing, and well, are they doing testing? What's actually going on? Now, it is extraterrestrial, right? I'm not going to spoil anything there. That's probably in the trailer as well. But the ethical and moral dilemmas that these characters have when it gets further on in the film actually make it of not just a ridiculous type of like, action superhero film, but it does have that ethical kind of feel about it. Now, putting all that aside, right, the other characters, which they're not really here, but Dr. Fitzgibbon, I'm pretty sure that's Polka Dot Man. Where's this guy's in it, that comedian. There is, in terms of the group themselves, we've got, let's just have a look at some of these pictures. You've got a girl who basically controls, let's just look at this picture. So this girl here, she basically controls rats. And when I first saw that, I was like, okay, how's this going to work? Now, in the trailer, you've seen probably what happens in that, but I'm like, this doesn't sound right. Like, it's just a bit ridiculous. But there's a big payoff of her skills with that. And there's a good cameo by that New Zealand director who did Jojo Rabbit in it. Takiti? I can't remember his name. The Polka Dot Man, who is actually the guy from The Dark Knight. He's the guy that plays the Joker's, like, one of his henchmen, and he's actually in Prisoners. He actually plays a really interesting and funny role, and again, they've taken the humor of, like, his superpower, which is quite depressing as well, but they've made it into a bit of a joke, which, again, is a mixture. I just think that this film really does work well. This is one of the main guys I have to infiltrate and get. But again, not spoiling too much. But the Weasel, Mickey Rourke there. Again, this is from the opening sequence. So we'll just leave that there as it is because I don't want to spoil too much. But as the movie keeps going, you're probably thinking, what else is going to happen? Well, there's a lot of like, go here, get that. That's the mission. Oh, wait, this happened. Let's fix this. Okay, fair enough. There is one thing I'm going to say. There is one sequence with Harley Quinn that I think was one of the best sequences in DC films. I mean, not up there with like Dark Knight or anything like that, but one of her scenes, and there it is right there with the flowers behind her. There is this feeling of this film, and it's very Guardians of the Galaxy-like, and kind of Tarantino-esque in a way, with the way they use graphics and titles and credits as well in this, which I found really amusing and really innovative. I know films do it, but for example, like you've got the beach, and then as the water goes up, and then the water comes back down, it tells you, 20 minutes earlier or 1 hour earlier or whatever. So, and it spells it out in the sand or in the trees or something like that. That was really cool. So, as the film goes on, again, when we get to the crescendo of the film, the closing kind of sequence and the big battle that happens. Again, not spoiling it, but the first time I saw what the big payoff kind of was, there is a comment that one of the characters make that don't speak English, and he actually says WTAF, and I pretty much had the exact same kind of feeling when I saw what I saw. And when you see the film, when you see the film, you will actually understand what I'm talking about, because it's just like, what am I actually looking at? But for a split second, I thought, is this actually a joke? But then as that sequence went on, I was like, okay, this is actually very interesting what they're doing here, and it's actually paying off. So I give it that. Well done for that. I've said a lot of good stuff, haven't I? You know why? Because I actually did enjoy this a lot. I really did. And I haven't spoiled too much, I don't think. And I don't think I'm going to get into spoilers. The other character, which I didn't talk about, was just a kind of like a sub character. He's in it. He's part of the crew. Is this King Shark, played by Sylvester Stallone, who, again, adds a bit of humor to it and a bit of brutality and a bit of violence. So in terms of violence, guys, I would say this is on par with, worse than any Marvel film I've seen. Like, in terms of violence, think of Mortal Kombat fatalities, right? That cartoonish kind of way over the top kind of violence that happens, and that's what you get with some of these deaths. It just gets to the point where it's like, whoa, that's gross, or that was pretty cool. Some people might not like that type of violence where it's just way over the top, a lot of blood, guts, people getting ripped open. I mean, you've seen on the trailer, the R-rated trailer, that King Shark rips someone in half. But, it's a DC film, and I think it works well with this film. The cinematography, I really liked it because there's Polka Dot Man. Because I think in terms of the CG, it was very limited, right? And there you go, there's a gross bit. Just when they get onto the island, the actual design of the island and the castle they got to infiltrate or whatever, it actually feels like it's real and on set. There isn't too many times where I felt like, okay, it's just green screen. And as you can see by looking at these, they actually filmed a lot of it in camera, apart from the giant shark and all that. But that's all I'm going to say, is that I was a big fan of this. And I'll tell you what, bouncing around with that's the stupidest sound, but yeah, who cares? They're giving it a 7.5 out of 10 rating here, out of 128,000 ratings. That's not bad, but let's have a quick look at the Rotten Tomatoes rating, shall we? Alright, Rotten Tomatoes. Alright, let's have a look. Now, before we get to it, I'll give you my rating of it, right? So, my rating of the Suicide Squad. The bad parts, okay, so I've said all the good parts. The negatives of this, and what can I say about the negatives of it? I think the negative parts of this could be possibly that some of the sub-characters, right, they were either used too little in a way, like the Polka Dot Man guy. He wasn't in it. He was in it, but not huge role. I know they've got a lot of people to go through, but a lot of action, a lot of screen time goes to Harley Quinn, obviously. Peacemaker played a good role. Idris Elba. These guys, Rick Flag. There's some epic fight scenes with these guys as well. But I feel that Harley Quinn does have a lot of plot armor on her. Now, if you don't know what that means, well, it means that, throughout the whole film, you've got bad things happening to people, the good guys, the bad guys, characters that you think going to keep going, whatever. And then you kind of, every time Harley Quinn gets into some sort of bad situation, you're like, well, she's definitely not going to die here. So plot armor was the only negative. In terms of a rating out of 10, well, I'll tell you what, guys, I was so impressed with this. I'm a big fan of it, and I wouldn't say a 9 out of 10. That's a bit rich, but I reckon 8.5 out of 10 is where this stands. Losing the points for the plot armor and maybe just some of the sub-characters not having enough and not developing them enough. So I'm going to go with 8.5 out of 10 for this. Rotten Tomatoes, what do they say for it? Let's have a look. 83. There you go. I said 8.5, so I said 85. 91. You know what, guys? I don't know why, there's a bit of hate on this. I mean, IMDb, 7.5, Rotten Tomatoes, whatever you want to look, the verified audience score, this is the one I like looking at because the reviews, let's not get into this, but, The Last Jedi was at a 90, okay? Bill Tiragenis first. Well, I don't know if you're first there, Bill, but thank you for joining the stream. As I was just saying, Bill, if you're listening, John Cena. I have a friend that's not a big fan of John Cena, and he knows who he is, and he's in this film a lot, so maybe he shouldn't really be watching it if he doesn't enjoy John Cena's humor. I think John Cena does a really good job in this film. But anyway, as I was saying, you can look at these ratings, and what I find is like that, people will look at a rating and go, oh, well, it's 60%, I'm not watching that. Well, that's ridiculous, because you should be, if you want to watch a film, ratings shouldn't really come into it, alright? So, people didn't like the movie The Fountain by Darren Aronofsky. I didn't like it. The ratings for it were pretty trash when it came out, but I went and watched it, and, well, yeah, it was rubbish. Even his film Mother. Depends on the type of people. If you're into DC films, I think you're going to enjoy it. If you're into Marvel films, you probably will as well. There is no DC Marvel battlegrounds here. I like everything. I'm just not a huge Marvel fan, but the Suicide Squad is definitely certified fresh for me. I'd be interested to see Cena in this film as I'm a massive wrestling fan. Yes, John Cena, as I was saying, YH, I've said it a few times. I've got a friend that's not a big fan of him. I think he met him in an airport or he just brushed him off, but the guy was in an airport. What are you going to expect? That's what happens. But I think you'll enjoy it if you like these superhero films, but it's not only a superhero film. Like I was saying, YH. Imagine like the movie Commando, imagine Rambo, all those types of films where you're given some sort of mission on an island to infiltrate something. It feels like that. The violence is extreme, kind of like Mortal Kombat. The humor is there, a lot of dark humor, a lot of funny scenes. Stallone does a good job. Idris Elba does a good job. They all do a really good job apart from the plot armor of Harley Quinn. I'm giving it an 8.5 out of 10. You guys have heard what I need to say. I keep pressing the wrong button. Sorry. But, alas, that's pretty much it from me. Here's my thank you speech to everyone. Just want to say thank you to Anonymous. Thank you to Bill Tiragenis. Thank you to YH for tuning in. Obviously, leave a like on the video, subscribe, send this to your friends, whatever. Trying to get to 400 subs by the end of the year would be great. But, what can you do? An 8.5, I'll check it out. Definitely check it out, YH. I didn't give away any spoilers, but yeah, definitely worth a look. Let me know what you think in the comments below when you watch it, guys. But that's pretty much been it from me. It's been 23 minutes of a review without any spoilers. I think I did a pretty good job. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. I'll see you guys soon because I'll be here. We're all locked down. Catch you then. 3, 2, 1, and boom.